everybody. This is part number 2 of my 2011 college football preview for the Oklahoma Sooners. We've talked about the offense already. Let's talk about the defense and special teams on this part. We'll jump right into the defense, and look, I'm not going to sugarcoat things, okay? Not having Travis Lewis for a little while stinks, okay? You'd be kidding yourself if you said otherwise. Your leading tackler for the last 3 seasons, All-American outside linebacker, a guy who passed up his NFL eligibility for this year to come back for a senior year, so personally you feel bad for him too. And looks like you're not going to get Lewis back until the Texas game, which is October, early October that is. So not having your leading tackler, not having your emotional leader on the field too, he's an on-field coach as well basically for this defense. Players really rally around him, and not having him on the field for the month of September is no doubt a setback. But having said that, I still think it's going to be a pretty good year for this Oklahoma defense. You just wait and see. I know this because they're still very talented in so many positions. They've got depth in so many positions. And Corey Nelson, a linebacker who wasn't listed as a starter, but a guy that even before Travis's broken foot injury was a person that the coaches were thinking, how are we going to get this guy on the field? How are we going to get Corey Nelson on the field? Because you've already got Wort at middle linebacker, you've got Jefferson strong side, and you've got Travis Lewis on the weak side. So how do we get Corey Nelson in more often? Well, you hated for it to occur under these circumstances with Travis Lewis, but now Corey Nelson occupies Lewis's spot from that weak linebacker position. One heck of a talent. One heck of a talent, but of course doesn't have the experience, doesn't have the credentials of that of Travis Lewis. But I still think Nelson is going to contribute heavily to this team, and he better, because 3 of those 4 games that Travis Lewis isn't scheduled to play are against offenses that are pretty good in Tulsa, Florida State, and Missouri. So really keep an eye on Corey Nelson. I think he's going to have a good year, and I still think the Oklahoma defense, despite what you might be hearing from ESPN, like this is shades of 2009, please, okay? That's in the past. That's gone. When they talk about 2009, of course, we're talking about the Jermaine Gresham injuries, the Sam Bradford injuries to anybody and everybody in Oklahoma. And, of course, the year ended with 8-5 after they started the year number 3 in the country. This is 2011. It's a setback to not have Travis Lewis, but the team's not going to be doom and gloom. And, again, Corey Nelson will now occupy that spot of Travis Lewis, and hopefully Lewis will be back by the Texas game, if not earlier. But, of course, Lewis has to stay off of that foot. That's really the only thing he could do to get that foot to heal back to a normalcy. Now, that is the key number 1, of course, is linebacker, and it's not just the weak side linebacker. Middle linebacker as well. This team's had so much to deal with, and of course in May they had the ultimate form of setback to deal with the tragic death of Austin Box, who would have been a starter at middle linebacker, in which this would have been his senior year. So now Tom Wort, who played quite a bit last year, he's now the full-time starter at middle linebacker. If you're talking about the differences as far as physicality between Wort and the late Austin Box, really not much. The only difference from a physical standpoint is that Wort is about an inch taller at 6 even, I believe, and Austin Box was at 6'1". So that's really as far as the difference. Neither one of them for a linebacker weighs a whole lot. They're kind of undersized in that position, but they make up for it with technique and speed and quickness. So now Tom Wort, who was not healthy in 2009, but for the most part was healthy last year, it now becomes his show. Now, if Wort gets hurt, who do they rely on? Could be Jaden Bird. Bird will probably be the backup for both Wort as well as for Corey Nelson. So Jaden Bird's going to get some playing time as well. Strong side linebacker position, now Tony Jefferson will occupy this spot. He'll also be used as a nickelback when they go with 5 DBs. And Tony Jefferson, co-defensive freshman of the year in the Big 12 last season. You have him back. He is one heck of a specimen. So the linebacking core, a major key, especially now that Travis Lewis won't be available for the month of September. If you're looking at the defensive line for OU, I think this is a very solid area in which they'll bring a lot of experience back, especially at the defensive tackle positions, where you have guys like Casey Walker as well as Jamarcus McFarland back. They pack a lot of beef, and they return for another season for Oklahoma at the DTs. As far as defensive ends go, at one side you've got Frank Alexander already getting some preseason praise for being a first-team All-Big 12 player. So you have Alexander, needs to stay healthy though. He's had kind of an injury-riddled career for the Sooners. The other defensive end spot, well, it's going to be occupied by Ronell Lewis, the former linebacker, now moved to DE, and just like Alexander, Ronell, preseason choice for first team All Big 12. That's amazing because of the fact that you lost Jeremy Beal, four-year starter. He finally graduated. They're going to miss him a little bit. There's no question about it because of the 4 years of service that you got from Beal. All Big 12 player consistently. So now you have Alexander, and now you have Ronell Lewis. Not too often can you lose an All Big 12 player at defensive end and have two preseason All Big 12 players the following year at that same position return. So doesn't look like much of a drop off there as far as the defensive ends. Front four should be good. The corners I think are going to be excellent. Guys like Jamel Fleming probably won't start at the beginning of the year. Didn't even know he was going to be able to play until just recently. Had some academic issues which suspended him for the spring and summer semesters, but is back now for the fall. He's good to go academically, and he'll probably end up starting at some point in mid or late September. Remember, he didn't play spring ball, so that set him back somewhat. Gabe Lynn will occupy one corner, and you have a veteran on the other corner position in DeMontre Hurst, back for his third straight year as a starter for the Sooners. So the corner's going to be excellent. And I think key number two for this team is going to be the safeties. There's no doubt a lot of focus for OU is going to be the middle of the defense with the middle linebacker and Tom Wort, and no question, because you lose both safeties to graduation. The All-American Quentin Carter is gone, and then you also lose another safety as well in Jonathan Nelson. But Aaron Colvin, who probably has as good a spring game as anybody, he is back for Oklahoma. He'll start at one safety, and then the other safety is going to be Javon Harris. He'll play the free safety position, and backing him up will be Sam Proctor, who is a former starter. So you've got guys back there in the safety position that have played and have shown what they can do. It's just that you're replacing two dandies in Carter as well as in Nelson. So defense is no question. I think if you compare them across the country, you know, Oklahoma stacks up pretty well in the Big 12. When these opposing offenses, though, are going against the OU defense, you can bet they're going to be attacking the middle, because that might be the one position compared to all the others where OU is going to be vulnerable. Now, I'm saying this, of course, under the frame of mind once Travis Lewis gets back. So the outsides, I think, are very experienced. The inside with the linebacker and the safeties, really something to watch, because I'm sure opposing offenses will take their chances against those safeties. So OU has to be ready for that. Looking at the special teams for the Sooners, you hate to see them on the field. Nothing against Tressway personally. I say this because you don't want to see OU punt, but you know they're going to have to punt from time to time. But at least when you see Tressway on the field, you're going to get a consistent punter. Averages about 44 yards per punt, one of the best in the country. So don't have to worry about the punting department. And then place kicking, this was an area that didn't make you feel too good last year for Oklahoma. Granted, Jimmy Stevens usually made kicks inside of 40 yards, but you get him outside of 40 yards, he's an erratic kicker. So I don't know what Oklahoma's going to do in situations where they have to, you know, make a 45, 48-yard field goal. Stevens probably won't be able to depend on him there. I don't know if they're going to go back to the routine of using Patrick O'Hara on long field goal attempts, something to kind of watch for. And if you're looking at punt returns, we've already mentioned this on the first part, Ryan Broyles, that's a solid option right there. So punt returns, Ryan Broyles, he's taking it to the house from time to time on special teams. So you have him, and then the kick returning game, Brennan Clay and Finch, it looks like, will be the primary guys to return kicks. Key number 3 to this team, though, is defending kickoffs. Last year, they gave up 4 kickoff returns for touchdowns. It was shades of 2008. The Missouri and A&M games that OU lost last season, in both games, they gave up kickoff returns for touchdowns. They're very athletic on special teams, and really it's just as simple as staying in your lanes and not over pursuing on the kick returner. It's just that simple. So to say that they need to do a better job of kick return coverage is an understatement. So really watch for Oklahoma when they're kicking off, because those are plays right there that can turn the tide and could end up costing them a game if they're not careful.